submarine final clearance to surface. Big old Roger, Atlantis, we have visuals on location. Surface area is secure. Clear to surface.
Welcome back, Atlantis. This is the Roxy with you, Charlie X-ray 3464, 88 Alpha.
That's your last on VHF, last.
I got you very loud, very clear as well.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is Atlantis number 9. That is going to be our ride down to the bottom of the sea today. At this time, so we can get ready to get aboard the Atlantis, I'm going to have everybody come up board and stay in your grooves. I know it might be tight for a second.
Roundabouts is good over 100 full feet of seawater. Hatch shut, life support on. 1330, all vents come open.
30, standing by.
He's got Hawaiian's fleet.
Yeah, I know.
Point you looks good, Lance. You could trust him.
Roger that. Army activating vertical thrusters now. Here we go. Dive, dive, dive.
Yeah, that's just like the movies, guys. Keep it real in here.
Minus one sublink, less than a sublink, 340.
340, one sublink away. Less than one sublink away.
It's really diving. We're not moving around.
Sending nice to their sails under, switch under watch out.
Roger that. Thank you, surface. Position to the underwater intelligence below.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start descending down to the bottom of the sea here all together. If anybody wants to back out, you're too late, man. It's 25 feet deep already. So I'm going to let you guys know the light's going to change in here. It's going to get a little darker. So if you guys are having a hard time seeing down here, you might want to take your glasses off because light is not going to penetrate the same as the surface, alright? So as we are going on our way down to the bottom of the sea, I went over a few safety items back on the holokai. If you guys notice, there are rectangular hatches in front of your knees. These are where our safety items are stored. If there's ever the case of emergency, these hatches will open and we will be able to don our safety items. Well, if you guys look between your viewport windows, you'll see some sushi menus. Alright, these sushi menus are for you guys. If there's a fish that if you see a fish that I don't see, if you want to know what you're looking at, use these sushi menus to help you understand what you are being able to view. Well, if you go right over the viewport windows, there are some vents. Well, these vents are blowing nice, cool air. It's going to be a nice, cool 70 degrees in here today for you guys. So point them in the direction that you would like to stay comfortable. And if you go all the way overhead, this one's kind of valuable, guys. This is a very good free souvenir here for the islands. These are aloha bags, alright? They're free. Take one, take all, take as many as you need. Don't use a friend slap, alright? It happens. If anybody does feel a little upset in stomach, feel free to use them, guys. Well, you'll notice, you look up forward, my hand is up. You guys are on the port side here. You'll see by my hand there are some numbers. Well, these are depth indicating numbers. Everybody on the starboard side, which is this side. If you guys look in the aft section of the vessel down by our co-pilot, those same numbers are down there. Well, at any time you guys want to know how deep we are, feel free to look at your numbers. Alright, starboard side is going to get the first viewing of our South Reef here, where there is just an absolutely ton of fish outside the viewport windows. Port side, you're not seeing a whole lot of fish. There is coral out there, alright? We're going to be viewing Hawaiian reef fish. When we are around corals, we're going to get fish. Unfortunately, port side, that coral out there, it has everything the fish needs besides one thing, protection. That coral out there, it has the algae for the herbivores, it has the grounds for the carnivores to hunt. It just does not have a lot of spots to hide because that finger coral just doesn't provide it. Everybody on the starboard side, well, this is plate coral. This plate coral is an absolutely amazing place to find a lot of species for the fact it has food, shelter, and protection. So port side, for $20 extra, we can turn this submarine. No, guys, we'll turn the submarine around here in just a moment, let everybody see, so everybody has an equal viewing time. But starboard side, you guys probably saw that real big school of yellow fish out there. Well, that big school of yellow fish is called blue line snapper, known as tahape. That's a Tahitian fish. It was introduced to these islands, so it's an invasive species. It was brought to these islands in the 1950s, actually to create a bigger commercial fish market. For that fish is very, very tasty. It's a really good fish. So if you guys fish, anybody that fishes in here, okay, this is crucial. Try as you possibly can. All right, take hundreds, take thousands, because they are invasive. They are not native to these waters, and having invasive species in these waters is actually not a good thing. But the blue line snapper, it's really, really tasty. It's a really good fish. It just does not yield a lot of size. So for market, it doesn't do too much. But those fish, you'll notice how they are in a tight school. You know, being in a big school of fish is crucial. Well, you can see that safety in numbers is very valuable, especially these blue line snapper right now. They're a nocturnal species, so they're sleeping right now. You're probably wondering, how are they sleeping? They're moving around. Well, they're in the alpha state. They're using 50% of their brain right now. So when you're using 50% of your brain and need to stay safe, you stay in a big school of fish. If you guys look down into the blue line snapper, you'll see a drumstick looking fish down there. That is called an Angelina Jolie fish. That's a pufferfish, guys. She got it. That pufferfish, if you guys are ever around them, please be careful. Obviously, they have spikes that they show when they are threatened, but they also have jaws that can bite through human bone. They don't really look like they can do that, but they can. If you guys see a fish out there with blue fins and a yellow pectoral fin, it's a really, really pretty fish just swimming up forward here. It has almost a yellow stripe down the side of it. That's called a bluefin trevally, all right? These bluefin trevallies, keep your eyes on them. They are very, very aggressive, fast, predatory fish, all right? So they usually run around in a pack. They get much bigger than that bluefin trevally out there over the reef right now. They can burst up to speeds of 50 miles per hour. So if you guys want to see a fish eat another fish, watch the bluefin trevally, because he'll do it for you. He really stirs up the underwater world down here when he's hunting. So once we are over sand, we will lose a lot of species. For the fact that when you're over sand, it doesn't have anything that the fish need. It doesn't have any food. It has no shelter. It has no protection. Protection is very crucial down here, especially in open waters. When we are diving down to the bottom of the sea, you guys probably noticed you didn't see a lot of fish. The reason for that was because that middle layer of water, it allows for too many fish to be vulnerable to other predators. If you're up there and you have a predator and nowhere to hide, you're most likely not going to make it till tomorrow. So, down here by the reefs, especially the plate coral, you have a lot of safety. You have a lot of spots to hide. As you'll probably notice, a lot of the fish are pancake shaped. They're very thin, they're slender. Well, the reason for that, that body shape allows for the fish to be able to get in and out of the reef to protect themselves. Alright guys, here on the port side, look, there's that bluefin trevally right over the top. He is a shiny fish. He has blue fins. You'll see yellow spots on him. Well, they get much bigger than that, so keep your eyes on that fish today. But if you can see, here is our big school of blue line snappers. You just saw some of the fish got a little stirred up. That's because those bluefins are trying to get a meal right now. Well, there's our blue line snapper. As you can see, they're staying in school. That blue line snapper known as tahape. Here's a real good close-up of him. If you can see those blue lines on the side of them, those blue lines aren't just beautiful, but they actually help one another know where each other are. For being in the alpha state right now, being a nocturnal species in open water, especially with predators right behind you, you need to stay in that tight school. All those blue lines allow for that fish to know where one another are, to be able to help each other stay in that tight school. Here's a nice close-up of that Angelina Jolie fish right over the top, that drumstick, big lips, big guy, little puffer fish. So I want you guys to know, when we look at these plate corals, always keep your eyes out on the big picture too, because a lot of big species like to live in this plate coral, such as Moray Eels, alright? Moray Eels love to be in plate coral because they're protected, but they're also able to hunt. They're able to feed themselves by all the fish that live inside the coral. Those bluefin trevallies that we just saw, they'll actually pretty much taunt the moray eels. They'll push the moray eels out of the reef. And the reason they're doing that is so once the moray eel leaves the plate coral, it goes into a new spot of the coral. When it goes into the next patch of coral, it's pushing fish out. Once those fish are exposed to open waters, then they're able to be hunted. So it's kind of cool to watch all these fish work together here. And you guys are probably thinking, wow, there's a lot of fish out there. Well, we're honestly only being able to view about 50% of the reef fish here on the island. For the fact that other 50%, they're sleeping right now. They are resting because they're nocturnal. So they are inside the reef resting away until this evening comes along. So everybody on the starboard side, as you can see out there in the sand, there's not a lot of fish. They're on that finger coral. So that coral gets its name because if you look at it closely, the scientists honestly thought it looked like bony fingers coming out of the sea floor. As everybody on the port side, as the starboard side, you just saw this plate coral. The scientists gave the name to this coral for the fact they thought it looked like plates stacked on plates. So, honestly, if there was something, a coral down here that was never been named and you guys thought it looked like something, you pretty much just name it by what it looks like. It looked like a dog, you just call it dog coral and away you go, guys. No, but this plate coral is absolutely amazing. It provides so much life for the bottom of the sea. Whenever we have coral, it gives all the food, the nourishment, the shelter, and protection that all these fish need to be able to thrive and keep on living. For only 1% of our ocean floor has coral reef on it. So here to the islands, if this coral wasn't here, these species would not be here. So it's very, very valuable to have this down on the ocean floor here. Here in just a little bit, I'll let you guys, has anybody heard of El Nino in here? Okay, here in a few moments, I'll show you what El Nino looks like. And you guys are probably wondering, how am I going to show you what El Nino looks like? Well, we've all been experiencing it, we've all been feeling it, we have seen it, but I don't think anybody's been able to see what it has done to the ocean floor. For when we start to move away from our south reef, even out here in these waters, it's 100 feet deep. El Nino starts when our waterways stay 0.9 degrees above average temperature for longer than 3 months. If we sustain a warmer temperature for longer than 3 months, we go into El Nino. Well, we've been in El Nino for about a year now. And these waters right now, even though we're 100 feet deep, we're almost the same temperature as the surface. We don't have thermoclines. So the surface right now is 80 degrees. Down here it's about 79 degrees. Well, the water needs to be cooler for these corals because these corals are living species also. So if you guys start to see coral heads out there that are bright white, well, that bright white coral is called cauliflower coral. If you guys look out on the starboard side, you'll see one right out in the distance. Well, that coral is kind of being depleted of life right now. For these warm waters are stripping of its life. It's not allowing for it to grow and be a real healthy coral. Alright, starboard side, there is a nice little school. So these bluefin trevallies, they get a lot bigger. Hopefully here in a bit you'll see them. You know, they'll be triple that size. And when they're triple that size, they are really fun to watch. They're very, very fast, very aggressive. And honestly, they burst up at speeds of 50 miles per hour, and it's really cool to watch a powerful fish do that. So if you guys see a black almond-shaped fish out there with a triangle tail, that's called a sleek unicorn fish. Keep your eye on them. I'm pretty sure everybody's kind of noticed down at these depths, the colors in here are a little different. If anybody was wearing red today, you're probably looking a little more purple or rusty. And if you have anything bright on, you're probably looking really bright, alright? Well, we're almost in a natural black light, where light does not penetrate the water surface to these depths. So we're at 100 feet. Everything that we're viewing outside the viewport windows, if we brought it to the surface, it would be a different color. So if you guys are wondering why the coral does not look really bright reds or oranges or greens or anything that you've seen in a National Geographic's, well, honestly, if you brought it to the surface, it would have a beautiful color, as all the fish would also be a different color. But fish also use that as their disguise, so at these depths they are able to protect themselves and blend in with the surroundings. So we just moved away from our south reef. We're going to be moving on to our north reef here. You can tell the landscape's changed a little bit. Well, we don't have a lot of that plate coral, so we're not going to have a lot of fish. We have fish out there, just not a whole lot. And the reason for that is because there's not a lot of shelter. But on our way out to our north reef, you will see those cauliflower corals, really bright white. What's happening is they're actually drying out. The zooxanthellae, the healthy part of the coral, is drying out and it's flaking off, and that's what is starting to make it lose its color. If you see dark cauliflower coral, that is actually the healthy pigment of the cauliflower coral. So over time, once the water starts to cool down, they'll start to regain life, and hopefully that will be soon, because if it doesn't, we'll have a little bit more of a problem here. Coming up on the starboard side, you guys are going to notice there is some anchor coral. Okay, it's not anchor coral, it's just a kedge anchor that's been down here for 150 years, and as you can see, coral is growing on it. I'll get to that in a second, why that is pretty valuable that that coral is growing on here. But the water that we're in right now was very, very famous and notorious for being one of the biggest whaling fisheries in the West Pacific Seas 150 years ago. Lahaina alone was the biggest whaling port in the West Pacific Seas. Well, these kedge anchors, you'll notice, will start to litter the sea. For the exact spot that we're right now, 150 years ago, these vessels would sail these seas whaling. Well, when a vessel is only under power by sail, it needs to be able to maneuver quickly. How they would do that is they would use these kedge anchors. They would actually set them over the rail. Say you put it over your starboard rail, once the kedge anchor started dragging on the bottom, you would turn your rudder with that drag. It would allow for the vessel to make a quicker maneuver, whether it was to avoid a collision or just to set a new course. So, unfortunately, sometimes the lines or the chain would get way too much tension on them and they would break, and these kedge anchors have forever been on the bottom of the sea. Well, having a solid object on the bottom of the sea like a kedge anchor is pretty good. For you guys saw coral growing on that. Coral alone, the coral polyp is as small as a pinhead. If it landed in the sand as it was going through the tides in the sea, it would never have the opportunity to grow. For the coral polyp needs a solid object to adhere itself to start growth. While having a steel anchor down here is solid, and it's able to grow algae. That coral polyp was allowed itself to land on it, adhere itself, and start growth. Well, when coral grows, the species start to come. It brings nourishment to the sea floor, and it's very, very special to have coral grow. Port side, here is a kedge anchor for you guys, so take a look at the coral growing upon it, the algae and everything. That is bringing nourishment to the sea floor, which is really good to see. Alright, starboard side, so you just lost out on your coral privileges. Now you're looking at Halimeda algae. Well, it's pretty cool what you're looking at actually on the starboard side. This Halimeda algae, you can thank, because this is a big sand producer. This algae creates about 20% of the sand here on the islands. You're probably wondering how it creates sand being an algae. Well, here later on our tour we'll get really close to it, but you'll notice that there's white calcium deposits on the end of its branches. Well, those calcium deposits break off and they break down, and that's what's creating sand. Hopefully we'll be able to see another sand contributor called a parrotfish. This parrotfish actually eats the coral. Its body's digesting algae off the coral. Well, coral is a solid calcium. So the parrotfish's body's breaking the coral calcium down and it's pooping out sand. Alright, to put it roughly for you guys. So next time you're on the beach rolling around making sand angels, you got stuff all wedged in your toes and in your ears and in your mouth, you can thank the parrotfish or the salamina algae, because you know that fish actually contributes 500 to 700 pounds of sand a year. One fish solely.
Some that died.
Alright guys, here is our North Reef. Oh wow, look, there's a great white tipped reef shark going right under that first shelf right there, guys. See, it's a laughing jaws. So you guys see that white-tipped reef shark out there? Really cool to see him, because that's a pretty special shark right there. If you guys see him here throughout the adventure, you'll notice that sometimes he's laying on the bottom. All right. Most all sharks, they have to be swimming at all the time to be breathing. The reason for that is all other shark species, they have to keep water over their gills. That's how they breathe. Well, the white-tipped reef shark, you'll see him laying on the bottom, staying still, for he's a nocturnal species, so right now he should be resting. But he has special muscles in his gills that allow him to pump water over his gills. That's keeping him breathing, staying in one spot. So he's being able to conserve energy by laying around. Because honestly, if I had to rest walking around all day, I'd be so bummed out. So this shark is very, very special, and you know there's only about 2 other species of shark that are able to do what he's doing. But you will never really see white-tipped reef sharks in a big group, nor you will see any bunch of sharks together, because they are pretty lonesome creatures down here. It's really cool to watch them swim too, for the fact that sharks, they have no bone structure. They're all cartilage and muscle. And so, I don't know if anybody's known, but between the octopus and the shark, they've been in the ocean for longer than trees have been on land. And the reason for that is their adaptability and how they can carry themselves on the bottom of the sea floor. Keep your eyes on the bottom. This is actually a really good spot. So right now we are on the North Reef. We're on the North Ridge right now. When we are over this coral out here, keep your eyes on the bottom, because this is really good taco country. And I'm not talking about Taco Bell crunchy tacos, guys. I'm talking about octopus. Octopus has, you know, honestly it's really hard to spot them for the fact that they can change the pigment in their skin and morph their body shape within a split second to resemble their surroundings. So that's why they've been able to be on the seafloor for so long. They have so many ways to disguise themselves. But keep your eyes on the bottom, and if anybody spots one, please tell a friend, because it's really cool to see them down here. Is anybody afraid of sharks in here?
Yes.
Be honest, raise your hands. Cool, we got quite a few. You guys afraid of coconuts? Seriously, you guys afraid of coconuts?
I'm afraid of coconuts.
Yeah, so more people are going to the hospital every year from falling coconuts, and this is true, alright, than shark attacks.
They're not afraid of coconuts. They're afraid
Alright guys, so if you see those yellow fish out there, those are not your blue line snapper, those are goatfish. Take a good look at and try to, if we get close enough to the bottom of their chins, you'll see these little barbels. They look like little goatee, little whiskers. Well, they use those. They're not just a fashion statement, you know. They use these little barbels. You'll find them on the sandy bottom, and they're kind of sifting through the sand with their little barbels. They're trying to pull up sand shrimp and other crustaceans, and that's how they find their source of food. But also, when we are on the South Reef, this is a really good place to see Moray Eels too. Or these Moray Eels, they are a nocturnal species, but you'll see them half their body out during the daytime. They are really blind species. Honestly, they're terribly blind. You could stand in front of them and they would not even know you're there. But they do have a very, very keen sense of smell. So if Hollywood screwed it up for you guys thinking that they are real dangerous to be around in the water, you can think differently. If you smell like fish food or something they want to sample, yeah, then you have a problem. But what's that? Do they like sweat? Sorry.
You know what? We should have lunch, Dad.
Eel.
No.
Tacos.
No. Fish and chips.
Oh yeah. I'm into that.
Except I'm too hungry for fish and chips.
You wanna go for pizza?
No, I'd rather have fish and chips.
Meat. Look at all those guys.
Is that like the saying, pity you're so picky with the putty in the body type?
That big shark flew away.
He did not fly away, he swam away.
Alright.
Fish swam, birds fly, but I don't think a bird can fly.
Alright guys, so right now, which is kind of funny since we are by this goatfish, I already talked about it a little bit. You guys all know it's real noisy out there in the water. Whales make noises, dolphins make noises. Well, they'll trip out here in a second when you hear these goatfish, because we have transducers. We can pick up sounds on the outside world. And once we get towards the stern there, we'll turn on these transducers and we'll try to pick up these goatfish here. Alright. Okay, here in just 1 second, I'll turn on this transducer. Alright, I'm gonna flip it on, guys. Let's see if we can pick them up. Alright. Yeah, they almost sound like a sheep, yeah? Isn't that a trip? That's unreal. I know. They do this all day. They just hang out and they sound like sheep, and then they're trying to mimic the goat. No, you know what? What's happening? I am totally lying to you guys. That's not them. That's just me screwing with you. Gotta keep you on your toes. But the goatfish, they do have the barbels. They do have those little goatee-like barbels down there. They do use them for finding their food sources. We are over the top of our North Reef here. We are on the top of the North Ridge. So I want you guys to kind of pay attention. Starboard side, it's going to look real steep. It's really cool to look down that ridge to the bottom of the seafloor. Over here on the port side, it is nice and flat, and we actually feel really close to the bottom. Well, we're over this finger coral. The finger corals kind of start to disappear, and we're going to move into a sandy bottom, alright? Well, what happens when we move into a sandy bottom part of the ocean? We start to lose a lot of fish viewing time. Well, fortunately, we're going to our third reef here, and it is an artificial reef. It's a really big reef here. So we'll move away from this finger coral, and we'll get to this really big artificial reef, and you guys will be really blown away with how many species are out here in a sandy bottom.
Oh, I wonder if it's a sunken boat. That would be cool.
What?
That would be cool if it's a sunken boat. Usually that's what they mean by artificial reef.
Alright, port side. Take a look out your window because you're going to see a big artificial reef. This is called the Carthaginian, alright? This vessel that we are viewing right now, it was a replica of a whaling vessel prior to that, it was a freighter from the Baltic Sea. Well, this vessel alone used to sit in Lahaina Harbor as a museum. So prior to 2005, it was on the top of the water. Now it is under the sea, alright? Well, it's kind of funny because we sell timeshares on this vessel to celebrities, mainly because they're the only ones that can afford it, you know. And we have pretty big celebrity here. You know, his name's SpongeBob SquarePants. He's hanging out on the mountain. So everybody under 21, give him a shotgun.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Alright guys, so the Carthaginian has been down here for 10 years. It was a museum at one time. Being a steel vessel in a salty climate with a lot of foot traffic, its body started to get a little weak. It started to take on water, so they're starting to get some leaks in the hull. So the museum didn't really have the funds to be able to repair it. And who wants to buy a sinking ship? We want to buy a sinking ship. We bought it for $1.04. The 4 cents was the state tax, the dollar was the purchase. Thought we were getting away pretty slick, yeah? Well, it took a little over $250,000 to figure out a good resting place to sink a ship. Or it's not as easy as just dragging a vessel out and dropping it to the bottom of the sea. There is lots and lots of regulations with it. For one, if we just dragged it out and we didn't know where we were putting it or where we were sinking it, we could have potentially dropped it on a lot of precious coral reef that would just destroy an environment, all right? We wanted to put a vessel on the bottom of the sea to create a new habitat. As you guys can see, there was a lot of fish on it. The reason for that is because the Carthaginian is a solid object. It's been able to grow algae, it's been able to grow coral. It has shelter and protection for all the fish of life. So the herbivore fish are being able to feed on the algae. The carnivore fish are being able to hunt the herbivore fish. Well, we get really big and small species here now, specifically because of what the Carthaginian has been doing down here. If you guys see right over the bow, there's some striped fish. Those are Hawaiian sturgeon fish. If you see a pure yellowfish, that's your yellow tang. You'll see long-nosed butterfly fish. You'll see millet seed butterfly fish. Our sleek unicorns, goatfish. The list goes on. We also get a lot of big species here. It's a great place to see white-tip reef sharks. We'll get eagle rays out here. Well, prior to 2005, there were none of these species right here, for the fact that if you look out your viewport windows on either side of the vessel, it's all sandy bottom. So having that sand doesn't allow for any species to come. So I'll hand down a picture for everybody to see. I'll start with the port side since you guys are looking at sand right now. I'll give you something to look at. This is a two-sided photo. The front side is actually a time-lapse shot of the Carthaginian going down on its last voyage. It had 2 big wooden masts at one time, and it was also full of rings. The back photo shows it full of rings, the big, beautiful wooden mast. Well, it came down to the bottom of the sea with the wooden mast. Obviously, over time, they came down by themselves. The riggings had to be taken down, for it's just not safe to have lines and wires under the waterline for any other vessels. Or, predominantly, this is a great scuba diving spot. It's voted as one of the top 25 dive sites in the world. So if there was a lot of riggings, it would be a little dangerous for scuba divers to be around. But it took 27 minutes for the Carthaginian to meet to the bottom of the ocean. We sank it with water. You just fill up a vessel with water. That's pretty much how all ships go down, is they just keep on taking water. And you know, the water weight alone will dip a rail, and then once it keeps going, it's going on its last voyage to the bottom of the sea. But if you guys look all along the Carthaginian, you see white splotchy spots all on the rails and on the walls of the Carthaginian. All those splotchy spots, that's all new coral growth. So it's really cool. So that someday, hopefully another 10 years, this whole vessel will just be covered in coral, and it will be a big coral block pretty much down here. As it's eroding, because it's all steel and it is salty, it's going to deteriorate, but the coral's always going to grow on it, and that's going to provide all these species a place to feed and protect themselves. Alright guys, if you look right in the middle of the rails down there, you'll see a fish feeding on the white spot on the starboard side. That's your parrotfish. That's your sand producer right there, guys. Wave to him, say thank you. Those fish out there over the bow with the white spot on the side and the black exterior, those are Hawaiian Bacillus damsels fish. Those are another native species here. It's always good to see that. So has anybody seen cinder blocks today on the bottom of the seafloor?
Yes.
I'm not going to screw with you guys anymore. I usually tell people that, yeah, those are